Welcome to Docker and Podman. In this lecture, you will learn about Docker, difference between Linux containers and Docker, OCI containers and Podman. Docker is a tool that helps you containerize your applications. It's a complementary technology to hardware virtualization. Docker is a bit like a virtual machine. The reason I say bit, it does not have 100% of operating system, but it has a piece of it. It runs as a process in the host operating system. Docker helps speed to market your applications using DevOps process. It has portability across machines, multiple cloud, and on-premise. Efficient version control. As I mentioned before, it has reusability. Once you build a Docker image, you can use them across multiple machines and cloud without any modification. Easily shippable because of the light footprint. It is cloud native with Kubernetes support. Look at the diagram. At the left side, I have Linux containers. Right side, I have Docker. Linux containers are just like monolithic application. You have to run the entire application as one. On the other hand, Docker helps you to divide the application in small pieces like microservices. It provides technology and tools to segregate them and support. Docker products. Docker give few products. The first one is the Docker containers. That is a community engine. We call it as Docker engine. It's an open source container technology for building and containerizing the applications. Docker Compose is a tool for defining and running multi-container Docker applications. Docker Hub is a public-facing container registry that helps you store, retrieve, and find the image. Docker gives two different versions to the developers to develop applications. One is Docker Desktop. It comes with Kubernetes, CLI, and all sort of tools. It can be installed on Mac and Windows. Docker Desktop Enterprise is primarily for corporations with fine-tuned capabilities and support. I give you a very simple container image build workflow. If you look at the diagram, I have the GitHub with a source code. Say I have a Java source code. Using a CI/CD tool, I build an artifact and store them in Artifactory. Then I pull the artifact into the Docker host to containerize the war file or ER file. Now I need a base image with Tomcat or WebLogic. I pull the base image from the Docker container registry. I combine the base image and artifact using a Docker file and build a Docker image. Then I tag the image, push it back to the Docker container registry. From there, it goes to Kubernetes for orchestration purpose. Docker has its challenges. First of all, Docker is a runtime component. It's a daemon. If a Docker daemon fails, all containers in the host will fail. It's a single point of failover. The logical port is very hard to secure in corporate. It gives you a lot of work for people to secure the logical port. The third thing is supportability. Since it is an open source tool, big corporation wants something to be supported. Docker loves layers. Look at the diagram. Everything comes through the Docker daemon. Docker daemon, then go to containerd, then it goes to run C. So even if one of the component fails, the whole process will fail. Open Container Initiative. It was started by Docker initially. Now it is managed by Linux Foundation. Few IT decision makers want to remove the dependency on Docker. Users also want interoperability between various containers. Today you have Podman, Docker, Core OS and all. There is no interoperability. So the OCI containers define standards how to write and build containers. Just like the Java EE standard, Java Enterprise Edition standard for application servers in the industry, the Open Container Initiative to build global standards for cloud native containers. Podman. Podman is one of the OCI container in the market. It can run as a root and also non-root. Podman directly interacts with runC. Look at the diagram. Unlike Docker, Podman talks to every layer directly. It is very efficient. Podman commands are same as Docker. For example, you can pull a Docker image and run on Podman without having Docker engine in your host machine. It is supported by Red Hat. Wherever Red Hat sells their OpenShift solution, they encourage their customers to use Podman so Red Hat can support the Podman container software. Podman Limitations. It's a Linux-based, no support for Windows. There is no equivalent of Docker Compose component. It's a new product. It has bugs and issues. But eventually the type of tools will grow in the future because the industry wants to have competition in the container market so they can get the better solution for themselves. Next, container markets.